Good morning, everybody. You know, I love mornings, so if you don't, I'm sorry. But I love this time of day. It's a great time. So, today we're going to continue talking about you. You know, yesterday we talked about this process, and one of the things that we were talking about is there's inputs, then there's process techniques, and then you use leverage. So there was a lot of discussion about leverage yesterday, which was great. And inputs are really interesting. I want to tell you that a while back ago, a long time ago, a couple of years ago, I was asked to do a radio talk show. And on the talk show, they asked me to give the type of degrees I would recommend most for kids entering college today that would prepare them for life. And I thought long and hard about it because I believe there are a lot of kids that go and spend an enormous amount of time and money getting a degree in absolutely nothing. And we can list those, but I'm afraid there might be some people, Chris, that would have one of those types of degrees. And so I made a list, and you would be surprised that I believe that in order to be creative, probably the most powerful degree somebody could get would be literature. And the reason is that people that read a lot have a different perspective on life because they're framing life from the viewpoint of the author. So think about this, right? In our life, we frame our entire experience by our experience alone. So although I'm going to talk about personal and collective creativity tools, you frame your life experience by only your experience. You really can't frame life from another experience without doing something like reading or thinking from a different perspective. So today, the majority of our tools are going to be trying to get us to reframe the way we think and look at a position just differently. That's really where creativity comes from. Ideas come from your mind. Therefore, if we don't change the tool on how to frame an idea or frame a perspective, you're going to get the same ideas over and over. So let's get started. It's going to be fun. So sometimes creativity is done alone. Sometimes you're in a situation where you think, okay, I got to come up with some ideas. So we're going to talk about individualistic and collective ideas. So here's our first one. And I love to talk about this one. And this seems so simple, but it's really not. So the idea is, and I always think about when I was a little boy, my sister makes fun of me all the time because I loved Mr. Rogers. Okay, you remember Mr. Rogers' neighborhood? So Mr. Rogers, he would open that door and he'd start to sing, and I'm not going to sing because morning voices are no good. Anyway, so he'd come down the stairs and he'd sit down and he'd take off his dress shoes and put on his little loafers. That's what I think about on the concept of switching shoes. It's the easiest technique for people to use for being very creative and the least done. Let's think about it. I want to use Heart and Home as an example. I was recently at Heart and Home's offices in Fruitland, Idaho, and I got to go see their training facility. So one of the value propositions and uniqueness in the market is they do an exceptional job getting their employees ready to meet patients. And what I love the most when we went in and they've got these rooms that are fake rooms, almost like a set of a theater where you have a staged family room, and they have the people do an actual call or a visit, and they record it and they watch it. Can you imagine how much more powerful your team would be if you truly talked about switching shoes with the family member? To actually think about, okay, to sit down with a brand new employee, because you do this all the time, this is how you naturally think, but a brand new employee coming out of a different industry, coming into hospice, would never think about certain things. We were visiting with Andrew this morning, and Andrew said that at one point he made a critical jump from a different career into hospice. So he hadn't always been hospice. Therefore, he didn't understand hospice like he does now. Now, your employees don't understand that either. So what would it be like for you to sit down and say, okay, let's actually sit down and let's switch shoes with the family member. You're going to go into the room. What's the family member thinking? Well, they're thinking they have a sick family. Yes. How does that make them feel? They're scared. Yes, they're scared. Why are they scared? They don't want to make a mistake. My hospice is teaching me to care for my family member, not doing all the care. That scares the hell out of me. Yes, it does. How are you going to make them feel more comfortable? Do you see how powerful switching shoes with the other person is? It's amazing. When you think about life from somebody else's perspective, and you ask more questions and you probe, and you really try to discover what is it that's in their mind, you switch shoes with them, and you have a whole new level of empathy. So, although I think you're very good at switching shoes with when you think about a business problem or a situation, I think this is probably the very best technique you should adopt within your hospice, especially with new employees or from anyone that came untrained or improperly trained from another hospice. We cannot assume that the other hospice trained them as well as you will. And if you're not training to a position where you feel like you're exhausting the employee, you're probably not doing enough. Because you cannot overtrain to prepare somebody for what that employee is about to go into in a station or in a home. I would also say it would be amazing if you're not doing this to make sure you're asking a lot of questions about their experiences and sharing, having a time of sharing ideas. Because people, if new employees are going to get frustrated because they're running into situations they've never seen before. Okay. All right. What if trees grew sideways instead of straight up? Thinking in opposites. We talked a little bit about thinking in opposites yesterday where we were talking about the difference between a massive room of computers and a very small one. Here's one I think about all the time. I love my conference room. I love it. It's got a beautiful table and chairs. But I think about sometimes that when people as humans are sitting at a conference table and there it is in front of them, they have an area of defensive space. They've got protection behind the conference table, right? For a long time I had a glass table in my office because I read an article about how intimidating glass tables are. The other person, they don't know what the heck to do with their legs or their hands, and you can see them squirm, and I'm just like watching them squirm under the glass. However, wouldn't it be cool if instead of having a conference table, you threw the damn thing out and you had a boxing ring? And people would jump in the ring and they fight over their ideas. I love methadone. No, methadone's terrible. I love methadone. Here's the reasons. I mean, you get so much more energy. Why do we separate people in a conference room when we ought to be engaging with them? I would love to see more conference rooms filled with beanbag chairs. And then everybody slides together and you have to be touching another person all the time with your feet while you're having a conversation. What would it do? It would simply reframe the way we think. That's all I'm saying. Ideas only come out of your brain. That's the only place they come from. So if you don't reframe the situation using a tool or a technique, you won't get a different result. So I have several of these, so I can't spend 20 minutes on just thinking in opposites. Here we go. My brain is mush. Should I stop or push through? Do you ever feel like this? The answer in creativity is stop and go have a drink. I don't care what you drink. Out of everything I drink, my favorite thing is iced tea or red wine. That's it. So if it's in the day, I want an iced tea. I love iced tea. Okay. So getting away drink. The reality is, this is the only thing I disagree with Catherine the other day. Was our guest speaker the other day? Catherine Elizabeth McKenzie. Okay. The only thing that I said that I really loved her, but I thought I need to just tell her one thing. You all know that they're in brain theory. It's a triune brain theory, not a two-stage brain theory. You have conscious thought, preconscious thought, and subconscious. And she was referring to subconscious when she really meant preconscious. So the idea is that there are times in your life you're completely focused on what you're doing, and then other times where you slip into this relaxed state where your mind is allowed to move free. And that's exactly what the reality is in creative thought. Alcohol, for years, has been a stimulant for people to really think well. In fact, my son went to Oxford University, and his first day at Oxford, they took him to the Eagle and Child, which is the famous bar where Francis Schaeffer and Hemingway used to sit and have scotch and talk about book ideas. And so there's been, for years we've known that great creative ideas come when you go out of that conscious thought to a pre-conscious and more relaxed state. So sometimes it's important just to get away and have a drink. I would recommend that I would love to have everybody's office have one at least really nice patio where when you're struggling, you can go outside and sit somewhere comfortable and enjoy life. Now, a lot of the places I go, they've got one picnic table, and it would be terribly uncomfortable to sit there. That's not what I'm talking about. A really nice place for you to go 10 minutes a day and just relax. My time, we talked about this a little bit yesterday. I love that conversation. We were all really sharing yesterday about challenges with HR. That was a great session. I want to thank the panel. That was super. I think we all need that. Sometimes we feel like we need other ideas from people. I shared a little bit that every day when I have had all I can stand, I call a girls' lunch. And what happens, I was realizing this, I was thinking about this morning, many times during the girls' lunch, Debbie and Emily are eating apples, they're talking and they're laughing, and we're eating our salad, and I'm just sitting there quietly, and I've escaped for a little while. And then my idea will come, and I'll get up and say, I gotta go. Isn't that right? Because all of a sudden, during 30 minutes of watching them laugh and talk and tell stories and eat apples with peanut butter, the idea comes. And then I gotta get up and leave. Sometimes we need a place just to be, just to get away and to not think, but just to be. Okay, very important. Experiencing is better than trying to understand. I thought about this the other day when Arvid was here, and he was talking about nursing homes are what he thinks are the most powerful, influential source for referrals, in his opinion. And I was thinking to myself, I've never spent a full day in a nursing home ever in my life. Never once. I've spent an hour, maybe an hour and 20 minutes, but that's not good enough. When I started 30 years ago, and I started in the PBM business, I didn't know what a PBM was. We served TPAs. I didn't know what a TPA was. I had never been behind a pharmacy counter, and I was the president of a PBM. That's not a good starting point. So the first thing I did is work very hard to find some pharmacist that would let me spend an entire day behind a counter watching what they did and asking them to be honest about how they feel about PBMs. Okay? That's how you learn. Empathy is getting in the place of the person, not just trying to understand them. Experiencing that person is different than trying to understand. Last year I showed a little quick example of this of somebody standing on the top of a hill looking down at somebody down in the ditch, and they said, "That must really suck down there." That's sympathy. Empathy is climbing down in there and getting with them and really understanding where they are. So wouldn't it be neat if part of our creative process within the hospice was to make sure that every person, if they've never spent a day in a nursing home, find a day and have them volunteer. If they don't know what it's like to be the social worker, have them take a day and just go with the social worker. If they've never been with any of the other staff they've never experienced, what if they just idea share? Would they be better served? Where is it that people miss connectivity in your business where true empathy would be best? Aren't we only reframing their thoughts? That's all we're doing. There's nothing really creative. These are just tools for reframing. Here's the last one for individuals. This is my great weakness, I'll tell you right now. I'm afraid of looking stupid. That's my weakness. As a little boy, I was raised in Oklahoma. I was the only Polish kid I'd ever met in my whole life. I had people make fun of me all the time for being Polish. In fact, there was the Polish joke book and the Italian joke book and the Irish joke book. And people, adults, back then, you would share rides, to baseball or to basketball practice. And other people's parents would pull up and I'd jump and they'd say, "Hey, Mark, did you hear about the two Polacks?" What the hell were they thinking? I'm 6 years old, and you're making fun of me being now you think it's cute, but the reality is, you're making fun of my culture being stupid. And all Pollock jokes are about you're not intelligent, and the rest of us are. So what does that do to you when you're growing up in that all your life? One of two things. You either decide you're stupid, or you roll up your sleeves and you say, I'm going to prove to everybody that I'm not. I'm going to do whatever I have to do to keep going. So that's my weakness. So my weakness as a person, one of many, is that I don't ask questions because I don't want to look stupid. The other day my son said, Dad, Jacob, my oldest son, he said, Dad, are you doing a good job allocating all your expenses on your income statement onto the balance sheet as an asset and intellectual property? And the answer was no, I'm not doing a really good job. But I was embarrassed to tell him I wasn't doing a good job because I want him to think I'm smart, and I didn't want to be a weak dad. I want to be a really good dad. So I said, no, tell me what more you're doing. And he just started talking about all the things he was doing, and there were things that, this is a bright kid, so he was doing things that I didn't know how to do, so I had to swallow my pride, glad no one else was in the car to make fun of me, and ask him more questions. This is where, and then now, based on the fact that I got more knowledge, I moved my fulcrum closer to the problem for my understanding, making the existing resources I have, making an easier lift on my problem. My problem is I want my companies to have a greater valuation than they currently do to demonstrate that we're building something, right? That's my problem. And my challenge is, at some point, the only thing you know to do is calculate your net income and a multiple of that net income to decrease your value. That's not the only thing you could do. So without asking questions, I wouldn't have a good idea of how to make sure that my valuation is strong. Okay. Sometimes creativity shouldn't be developed. How are we doing on time? Is anyone having fun? Because I am. I love this morning stuff. Okay. Yesterday we talked about this. I love this one. If you've never tried it, try a pre-mortem. It will scare the dickens out of you to do it. And it will reveal things that they might hurt your feelings. Okay? And as a leader, you can't truly be a leader and be really creative if you're constantly protecting your feelings. I know this. I try to protect I've shared with you. I am scared of being stupid. Therefore, I want everything to go perfectly. But then when I get my employees together, I get an opportunity with a new business engagement. We find out that there's weaknesses because you use this pre-mortem. So in the pre-mortem, you're looking at a problem or an opportunity. And you define the opportunity as it's a headline on a newspaper, and then you write the article as if you failed. The death of this business opportunity, the death of your hospice, the death of a site. Let's say that you expand into another site and you're struggling. You want to get together and brainstorm about why are we struggling. So you get this cute brainstorming technique, and the only people that talk in a brainstorm are the loudmouths, right? The quiet people sit there like this and make notes and have ideas, but they don't say anything. So this is a great tool to say, all right, we've got a struggling new site. Our census is 12. We haven't been able to break the cap. We haven't been able to penetrate and compete with these people. We're wondering if this is going to fail. So you write it out. You say, okay, everybody, sit down. Name a city. Bristol, Oklahoma. New site fails due to lack of census. Write why it happened. Now everybody starts and they write the article, and then you have them read it. And it's alarming how accurate it is and how much people will tell the truth, because they're sharing the truth in the viewpoint of a factual article. Now let's talk about the framing of the perception. We perceive news to be accurate. There is now a current president that has made sure we know that it's all fake, but in the back of our mind, we really perceive a newspaper article to be accurate. Therefore, when we wrote it, we wrote it as a edit or as a writer, and therefore we try to be as accurate as possible. So you'll get real feedback from your team when you do a pre-mortem. Just be ready. Some of it might hurt your feelings. It might say, we failed because of distracted leadership, and you know that's you. Okay, don't get your feelings hurt. All right, I got it. I can't do everything. So let's fill in my gap of distracted leadership. Let's find me some support. Yes, sir.
I'm going to throw one thing out that's been helpful for us as we've tried to do things where we just be honest. Our CEO, when he interviewed me for my current role, said that if you're not tripping 20% of the time, you're not running fast enough. Translation is, if you're not going to step out there, if you're not going to make mistakes, you're not the type of aggressive person I want to work for me. So we expect mistakes. You have to come on, kind of celebrate them. I did it. I screwed up. But so in something like this, if you go with it with that approach, that it isn't no harm, no foul, and throw things, and you might be wrong. Who cares? But you've got to push the envelope in that sense and be okay to do it.
I love that. Thank you. Yes. When you're going 100 miles an hour, you're going to make some mistakes along the way. You know, for a long time, there was a big excitement about zero defect production and being Six Sigma. In my world of service, if you're being creative and innovative, there's no chance you're going to be perfect. Where I want perfect is somebody that's making a heart cath. That if I ever have a problem, I want that heart catheterization, that cath to be perfect. Okay, but I don't need my design team to be perfect on everything that we're doing for Sono, because we might make some mistakes. That was great. Thank you. Okay, what if cats love to dress up? The great creative first two words are what if. I love these words. They should be the beginning of every troubled problem you've got. You should sit down with your team and say, what if we had too much business instead of too little? What would that look like? Now I'm just thinking the opposite. I'm asking what if. What if creates a whole different perspective. It's very positive. It's very open. So we've gone from defining a problem and having a limited scope to what if we had unlimited resources? What would that be like? How might things change? Now, what if it's never going to solve the problem? What solves the problem is all the ideas that come that are out of the box. They're out of your limited scope. When I say, how are we going to go from 12 to 100 in the census in Bristol, Oklahoma when we're at break even now? All I've done is narrow the scope to my little box right here where I'm like, shit, I can't, how am I going to get out of this box? You know what I mean? What if our resources were unlimited? How could we do that? Okay, we need to leverage more volunteers. Yeah, how do we do that? Let's engage with the church community. Does anyone know the pastor? You know, this is what we got to stop getting in a box and get stuck. What if should be two words you use all the time. And if you don't, we make mistakes. We're refreshing our mind today. We're talking about things we've talked about in the past, but we're refreshing. Yes, I need to do more of that. Here's another thing. This is a technique of discipline, and it's creativity and discipline combined. It's looking for the third right answer. How many times do we sit in a conference and we say, "That's it. Okay, go. Everybody go. Let's do. That was great." But we left something on the table. It's like having dinner, but you didn't take time to eat the rolls or have dessert and an after coffee. You got the job done, but you ran out and it wasn't the best. Too many times in a meeting, we find a first right answer and then we stop. Where the second right answer could even be better, because we need to take that first right answer and reframe it a little bit and then look for the third right answer. And most times when I've experienced the third right answer, it's so ridiculous and crazy, we're not really going to do that one. But what it did was it expanded our mind to other ways that we can improve number one right answer. Too often we look for a very quick solution and we run out the door, and that's not creative. Okay? So a third right answer, we get a good answer. Here's one we might say, how would our competition do this? And now all of a sudden we're reframing from our company to their company. We're looking at the same problem in our solution to say, oh, well, they would do it like this. You know, it's been fun to get to know Heart Health and Crossroads as an example, two completely different care models in the same industry. It's really cool. So if you think about it, they spent some time together this week, which was really, really fun. It's fun to see people get together and say, what's your model? What's your model? And then to reframe a problem that I've got based on something I learned from my friend. Okay? Look for a second and third right answer as a team. Okay? I love that little picture. I don't even have a point. No, I'm teasing. Collaboration, most of the time we use brainstorming as a collaboration technique. The only thing I'd like to say about having any kind of brainstorming is make sure that if you're going to brainstorm in a group and you're using verbal cues, make sure you have rules. Like the other day I shared with you that somebody gave me a talking stick where it's a piece of wood with feathers on both ends, and when you're holding it, you have the floor, and no one else can talk. And this is a great tool to get everybody visiting. Everybody has their chance. If you don't do something where you make people be quiet, your quiet people will never say a word, and they have great ideas. Okay? Anybody use mind maps but me? Oh, Lord, please. Next year, I really want a lot of hands up. This is absolutely amazing. So I have this 38, well, we just moved. We had a conference room about this big in our office. And I made the whole wall in one dry erase board, 38 feet long. And we made it out of metal, too, so that you could have like a koozie and stick your beer right up there on the wall. You think I'm joking, but it's true. Jamie, isn't it true? Yeah, okay. So you can start on that end and write, but mind mapping is absolutely this amazing tool to give you clarity on a complicated problem. To give you clarity on a complicated problem. Have you ever had a problem where there's so many variables that you're like, oh, God, I'm overwhelmed. What if I miss something? So you start out with a circle, and you write what the problem is, and then you start to break it into segments. And then over on this one, you say, oh yeah, I forgot about this. Oh, and I got to take care of this, this, and this. And all of a sudden, you've got this thing that looks like it's a mind map, and it takes up the whole wall, and you've now broken it into all these little pieces, and you can identify each piece. And what will make you feel great about is that you now have a template of all the things that you need to work on. It's an absolutely amazing tool. There's lots of information online about mind mapping. So if you're struggling with a problem and you're overwhelmed by it, break it into pieces. Sorry, my nose is a little red. I wish I would have had this in college. It would have been the perfect thing for a paper. You have an idea for a paper, here are your major sections, here's what you need to say. It just takes this huge project and breaks it into pieces that you can stop worrying about, and therefore now you can be creative on all the little pieces. Okay. Your brain is not in your butt. You knew people. You don't know where I'm going with this one. The rest of them, okay. So brain theory says that you have a hemispheric brain theory. You have a right brain and a left brain tied together by the corpus callosum, right? The middle of your brain. So in theory, and it's not necessarily proven now, there's a lot of science to support it. The right side of your body is controlled by the left side of your brain. Left side of your body, right side. Right side is very creative. Left side is very analytical. So therefore, when we're sitting down, yeah, I think that, in fact, I love the idea of living in an environment of creativity and eliminating things that kill your creativity. So, last year I gave out a book in which I talked about creativity for hospice, and I'm really into what is your lifestyle like that either does or does not generate creativity on a daily basis. So, for me, I would say that probably the thing that I think eliminates our creativity the most is listening to the news on the way to work. Okay, that's an absolute idea killer. And so what I recommend is a really soft music, trying to go a different pattern to work. You know, also tricks, things that you do. When you're driving and you're using both hands, you are stimulating right and brain activity. The other thing about driving to work is you're also going to drop from conscious to pre-conscious thought. That's what Elizabeth was talking about the other day. When you drive to work and you realize, I paid no attention to where I went. You really did, but your mind was somewhere else, even though you're kind of on autopilot. So you're doing it every day if you're being conscious about it. Also, I want to remind everybody that the big test of my right brain, left brain theory is your left hand and your car keys. I don't have any car keys today, but I have my little wallet. So the other day, someone was in my office, and Jonathan, who works for another company, came down and said, do you know these people in your office? I said, I don't know. He showed me who one of them was, and that person is a real bad dirtbag scum dude. And I won't do business with him, no matter how much money we're going to make. He's out. We're out. We don't do that. If you know Paul Hagen, you guys know Paul, my business partner, kind of the funny hair back Miller Lite all the time. We do not make decisions based on how much money we're going to make. Period. And anybody in here will say, that's absolutely true. I would go to Paul and say, this guy's a scumbag, we're not doing it. He says, we're out. We just don't do it. Life is too short. Why would you do business with bad people? Anyway, so I couldn't remember the guy's name. So here I'm walking down the hallway in our office, got my car keys in my left hand, and I have to do double technique, which means I have to start with A. A, B, B, C, D, now E, H, H, I, J, K. Kroll. They say, Jonathan, it's Kroll. That's what I said the other day. And people think I'm crazy, but you use left body activity to stimulate the right side of your brain. That's where names are stored. Because if I was going to name you based on a fact, I wouldn't name you Hall. Right?
So wrong.
So anyway, so true. So here, you have to. So next time you're in the mall or church and you see somebody coming at you and they're in a different place now than where you know them from. If you were in that place, you know exactly who that is. Now you're looking at them and you're like going, oh my God. And they're looking right, they're coming right at you. Hi! Here they come, here they go. Go right to your left hand, get something in there. Pencil, keys, whatever you gotta do. Get that left, start, hey, B, and C, thank God. Hi! You guys have techniques too where you, when you pause, your wife or spouse knows, jump in there and introduce themselves because you have no idea who that is? Okay, Jamie.
I'm sure everyone in this room has been there. Nurses wearing scrubs, you see them every day, you work 12-hour shifts with them, and then you walk out and you see them at Walmart, you have no idea because they're not in scrubs. Yeah, they're like different humans. We have two human lines. No makeup and scrubs, and then like real life stuff that we wear, real clothes, no one recognizes. Ever.
Okay, we're going to take a break here in just a second, but I want to introduce my friend Eric. Eric, just stand up and wave real quick and then sit back. Okay, I'm going to tell you because I want to be transparent about why he's here. A few months ago, we embarked on a project at PDC to have a much better methodology for attracting attention online on our website, right? And we thought we knew what we were doing. And we got our little team together at the conference table and we talked about it, and we brainstormed and we chatted. And we realized that we really need some professional help. So we reached out to some consultants in the marketplace and had them make presentations, and their presentations were just terrible. They kept spinning this crap that without any detail, and the bill was enormous. And I don't want to spend, don't you get tired of spending money on things that don't work? And you're like, I'm just getting ripped off every time I turn around, right? So I went from Mr. Happy to Mr. Grumpy this whole time. So Brian Baker, one of our guys who's fabulous and just a great human being, great employee, he says, okay, Mark, I know you're really frustrated. Before you give up, I want to bring in my friend. I think he's going to be really good and helpful. I'm like, all right. I always said, okay, because it's Brian and I love Baker. And he's from Newfoundland, and you can't be too mean to him because he apologized for everything. You know, Canadians are like, sorry about that. Sorry, he's just wonderful. So he brings in Eric, and I'm like this. Sorry about that. Really, by the way, I apologize. I'm like this, like just another waste of an hour. Here we go. And Eric does something no one else did. He told us the truth. He told us facts, told us what he could do, and he also said, by the way, I'm going to teach your team, and then I'm going to leave. I'm not going to be a consultant forever, dragging out every contract for as long as possible, not finishing a project so that I can do it longer, charging you for everything in the world. And so I'm like, whatever. So he pops up his screen, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what I've been looking for. So I have been promoting this guy to my best clients, and I said, I want to bring Eric in here. He's going to talk today at, what time are you up?
10. At
10, which is a dangerous position because everybody wants to go home. But if you really are sick and tired of an ineffective social media campaign in your digital marketing strategy, and you need a real friend to teach your team how to do it so that they're not in your pocket forever, that's why I brought Eric. Okay? I will say that my team now just takes off in sales. And I will also tell you something. It's really difficult to get a hospice to listen to you if you're a vendor of anything. It's really difficult because hospices want to discover, right, Hall?
Correct.
They don't want to be sold. With the right strategy of the right message in a digital marketing campaign, including social media and digital marketing, last month we had 7 people call us that we had never heard of, who called us and said, I love what you're saying on the internet, what are your communication tools, and we want to chat. So when you get people that reach out to you first, now translate that. Could you do a better job messaging to your community? I would venture to say, no matter where you are, we could all do a better job. And Eric is not an expert at everything, right? But this guy is a great resource, and I wanted to present him as a friend to us. Anyway, thank you so much, you guys. That was fun. We all did a great job.